what I did, I used the verblijfsobjecten with that. Now for performance reasons, I'm going to use some other data set, which I have locally stored here and not the one on the surface, because I kind of fed up with the surface one earlier this morning. So I've got a local copy of the Bach on my hard disk here. So look, the points for the verblijfsobjecten, yeah, that's the one. I think I used this one yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look. Oop, it should start up my database now, and it hasn't been running today yet. So, on the other hand, we're looking at a database with, as I said, about 11 million points now. So yeah, it's kind of large data set. Okay, so here we have the verblijfsobjecten again. Put these ones away. Remove layer. One other thing I do is I clean up my layer panel regularly. I like a, if you look at my desk, it's kind of messy, but I like a clean desk. And in this case, my desktop, I like to have just the things that I need. So I have my layer panel, which is only my layer panel and not some browser thing underneath that I hardly use anymore. I've got my layer styling panel, and most of the time underneath my layer styling panel, there's also the processing toolbox, because those are the tools I use a lot. Now at this point, it's only the layer styling. So what you could do with this, okay, let's have a look. We're looking at, for example, the area here with the greenhouses in Westland. So we're looking at all the verblijfsobjecten, all the addresses in this area now. And if I identify one of, oh, it's always this bloody thing on top of my screen. Let's have a look. If I just identify one, you can see it has a oppervlakte, surface area, an area, 148 square meters. So if I look at one of those things, it should be a lot bigger. Let's have a look. There's two here. There's one of 200 meters, another one of 200. Then it should be another one. One of these point. Yeah, this is really big, 45,000 square meters, and it's one of those greenhouses. I guess looks like a greenhouse. Okay. Now all these points are they are now just small circles on the map. And the circle is the basic thing for a map. And yeah, I know I said I'm kind of lazy, but on the other hand, I don't like the default options that much. I think it always works nice if you change the symbol to something else. Now, for example, if we look here, we could, okay, this is interesting. And I could, of course, I could label everything with the where is it, the area, and now you know how big every point is, but that doesn't really tell you much. You know, you can look at it. Oh, this is a large one. Look, 18,000 square meters here. Wow, that's a big one. But you don't feel it. You don't. You know, the map doesn't tell the story yet. So let's not do this by labels. Let's try to see if we can, we could, for example, scale the point. Yeah, that might be nice. Let's have a look. So we look at the size, and you see here that the size is two things at the moment, and I don't know what the thing is. Oh, it's millimeters. Ah, yeah, 2 millimeters. Okay, okay, interesting. I could change that for every point. I could also make a use this this toolbox button here for data defined override, and I could have a look at. Okay, so I'll use the assistant that works best here. I could look at. Okay, let's have the input. So I've got the source. So what would be the source field? Well, for example, the surface area. Now you see that I've only got a list of 3 options here. That is because these are the three options that are actual numeric values. All the text values are not available here. So what kind of values would I have? Well, the smallest thing, if something is 50 square meters, that should be the smallest value, and everything below that. And the largest value, well, I saw 40,000, but let's say 10,000 would be nice. So now a 10,000 square meter building or larger building would be the maximum size. Now they run from 1 to 10. So if you look at this, this is the legend now, more or less. Okay, so if I look at my data now, okay, this is interesting. Now you can see that the larger buildings are outside the cities, and within the cities, there's just a few of them. But most of the larger buildings are outside. Okay, now I don't like this, by the way, all these round things. Everyone always does circles. Why do circles? Let's change that to a square. Now it looks better. Okay, now we have a different map. Now I'm wondering, is there also something else here? Let's have a look. There's also perhaps something, nah, there's not too much. But if I would have here, for example, well, here you see the status of, is it in use or is it, you could use the status, for example, of this building. I was looking for function, but it's not in this data set. It's my local copy in another verblijfsobject, and if you use the original data, the function is there as well. But let's see, but I could also, instead of single symbol, I could change this now. I could categorize on the status. So let's have a look. Status, where is that? This one. And I could classify by random color. Now here we have, yeah, this is interesting. So we have different statuses here. So for example, and this is random colors now. So a purplish one is not, they didn't make it. They gave a permit for that, but they didn't really build it. Let's have a look.
Under construction, maybe.
Under construction, it's not
under
in
construction.
Here.
Yeah, but not realized. Maybe it's under construction.
No, not realized means it's not under construction anymore.
Okay.
It should be under construction. Should be here.
Ingetrokken.
Yeah. But if we look at the red ones, gevormd, that means that they are in the process of doing so. Interesting. I was looking for permit as well, but it's not in this data set. Sure. But here you can see that, so you can combine size for a symbol with function, or in this case, status of and you see that most of the things are, of course, greenish. Was there also a year of construction here? Document. This data set is buggy. I had the local copy, but I wanted to have building construction as well. That's a shame. That's not in this one. Anyway, doesn't matter. You get the feeling here that you can combine different values for color, for size, for those kind of things. But it's interesting to see, if I look at Delft, for example, let's go to Delft. Everything's building here. The university here, you see that faculty building here is, that's quite interesting. But this is a nice one.
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Let's first have a look at this one. The is that architecture?
That's the Faculty of Architecture.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
quite a large one. This there's here there's of course there's this new.
Sorry, that's not architect. That's chemical engineering.
Is it? Am I? Oh, I'm at the wrong side of the. Oh yeah. Here we are. Oh, this might be your most interesting building here.
The Bouwpub.
Yeah, Bouwpub. Yep, 261 square meters. Yeah. It has an educational purpose, by the way. Interesting enough. Here I see something strange because,
No comments.
yeah,
Yeah.
can imagine. Look, there are some really large objects here.
Those are the lampposts.
Those are the garages of these houses. And they look to be extremely large. Now, this is interesting. What I'm looking at this moment is a data error. And somebody else has realized this as well, because it has a end date as well. So this one in 2011, somebody found this is not correct. So probably the second one, which has 22 square meters, this one does not have an end date. Our registration, and that is interesting to know, and I hope that at some point in time this might be useful for you, but our registration is such that if something changes or if a building gets removed or whatever, you don't remove the data from the data set, but you give it an end date. And a new object forms then at that point. So in this case, there was probably some data error. And at some point in time, somebody said, this is not correct. So a new object was made with the correct size. I mean, it's a garage, so it's probably 22 square meters, that's fine. And this one is does not have an end date. Why do we do this? We do this to keep history. All our registrations are filled with history at the moment. And we know this from our the base registration BRP, the persons, the natural persons registration. If somebody dies, he does not get deleted from the system, but his date is, there's a date added to the system saying moment of death or date of death. But we keep it in our register. We know this person was alive at some point and was living here, etc. We do the same thing with our buildings now and with everything in these registrations, so that we're slowly building up history. And it's not been that long yet. The Bach, I think, is from 2010 or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's not that old. But at some point in time, somebody found there's an error. They corrected it, but the old object is still in the database. My copy that I have here contains everything. If you use the services, you only have the actual at this point in time data. So every old data is being filtered out. Everything. If we're looking at today, you see it's the 24th of September 2020. That means if you look at the surface, everything with a end date that is before today is being filtered out. This case, this one would not be filtered out. This one would be filtered out. So yeah, we see a data error here. There are some huge data errors in the Bach, and slowly it's getting better and better and better, and you don't see the real big ones anymore. But yeah, this one was a data error. All these garages were way too large. Look, this one is even bigger. I can have a look at that. You noticed that there's a lot of 9s in this. That's interesting. 9s are used a lot for, I don't know what the value will be, but I have to fill in something, so I use a lot of 9s. And everybody can see that that is wrong. That's interesting. Subject on data quality. I'm going to select or filter all the objects that have a Yeah, let's do it. And I'm going to select here. So I'm going to the data source. I'm going to put a filter on it. And the filter is that now I'm going to, I know I'm nerding a bit now. But this is all with done with SQL. And SQL is used a lot, structured query language. It's used a lot in GIS as it's mostly database oriented. So this oppervlakte, this area, should contain something like, it could be a lot of nines, and it could be something before or after, I don't know. Let's have a look. I'll just, oops. Why does this not, verblijfsobject, like, it's not working. Ah, that would be a shame. I thought I could use this one as well. No, it's not. What did I do wrong? Numeric unknown. Oh, that is weird. Ah, sorry.
And if you use double instead of one, single,
double is only for a field.
Is it a field? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I can't do this one. What I could do, okay, sorry, this one's not working. What I could do is I could filter all the values that have ended with this one. So if this one is empty, then I want to see it. If it is filled, it means it's no longer there, so I don't want to see it. So this will filter out my my data. So now you see that there is no huge garages anymore.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's something that you can always use. So larger buildings here in Delft, you see in the city, there's not too many larger. In Hof van Delft, also not too many in this area. Here in the university, there's a lot of larger buildings, which is logical. This just makes sense. This is a way of looking at a data set and like, okay, interesting. So there's larger buildings here. Yep, this is a church. Correct. I could have a look at the different things, and this will make it easy for me to just check if something is interesting in a city, but also if my data is not corrupted in some way.
Okay, but you have, in principle, you have selected everything now. So we see a lot of dots because there are small houses there. Yep. And at the same time, we see the bigger things like industry, schools, etc.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also interesting to have a threshold either at the top or underneath, because everything above 10,000 is now in one category. But I can imagine that would be interesting to see what is above 50,000 or something, you know, like what are the extreme buildings, or something we discussed yesterday as well. In some cases, the gallery apartments are counted together because there's one address. In other cases, it's 64A, 64B, 64C. So one building might be shown in different ways because the address is linked in a different way.
Yes, exactly. So for example, if you look at the student houses, here you have the
To the left, yeah.
Let's have a look.
To the left. To the left, yeah, there it is in the water.
So here you have the JFB, and that is, you see they are a bit larger than ordinary houses. So they are 246. So there is one. So this is per floor, because every floor has got its own house number. If you look at the apartments, let's see, here is the, in this apartment building, de Roland Holslaan volgens mij, the Rola Hola, you see there's just 2 dots here. That is a bit weird. There's a lot of houses in this, apartments in this building. So let's have a look. And
they're small.
Yeah. And there's
only the bike storage.
Look, there's 374 objects on this specific point. This is where the front door is located, and all the points are put on the front door. So all these they are all pretty small. So it's 22 square meters, and a random one is, oh look, it's 22 square meters. Yeah, they're all the
You're
same.
kidding.
Duh. Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting, and here you see that there's a difference with the ADP flat. This one looks a bit bigger.
20.
There should be. Oh, no, they'll have their own house number as well. Yep. Sorry. But this one here, for example, here is the probably one of these two is the Albert Heijn. Not sure which one it is, but there's a large one here. So that's probably the Albert Heijn, and this could be one of the other shops. I don't know.
That's the Albert Heijn. And the other one is the parking or something?
Oh, it could be the parking. Yeah, indeed. The parking
The
is
entrance of the
pretty
parking.
big. Yeah, this is the entrance to the parking. Yeah, this is the Albert Heijn.
That's the Albert Heijn. 4,600 is the right size for the Albert Heijn there.
You know that?
Commercial things, huh?
I'm a data nerd, but you're worse. Okay. Right. So you can play with this data, but if you're interested in, for example, where are all the really big buildings, you could do that by color or by size or whatever, but you could also add to your filter. So what I'm interested in now is, for example, I've got this only the current buildings. So I've got this part of the query, and I'm going to add another thing to that. Oops. And what I'm going to add is that the area is over, well, let's say 50,000. Really big buildings. Is that okay?
Great. Good.
So there's one here. Hey, look.
Ah, that's why.
Yep, that's why. There's I don't know, man. Just go figure. 9999999. So that's a data issue. See where there's other large buildings. So there's a few large buildings here. It's all ingetrokken. Interesting. But there's let's go back to Westland. Maybe there's one of the. There's not too many greenhouses that are really, really, really big.
No, they're up to 45,000.
Yeah, maybe.
And besides, if they're bigger, they're not combined, because then they're different buildings. Like the new ones built now, they're not connected to the other ones, the old ones. So it's 20,000 and 25,000, but not counted together.
Yep. So, but here, so you can select, you can visualize only the things you want to see. For example, in this case, the really, really, really big buildings. And currently, of course, they're all, if you look at the size again, you see, this is now yellow. That means that there's a data-driven override, data-defined override. I could edit this one, and I could change this these values again. For example, that not between 50 and 10,000, but what was my minimum value? 50,000, and the maximum will be 500,000, and then you can see the difference again between these two, between these categories. See if that works. Yep, it works. So these are these must be all 99999, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Erik,
So,
let's go back to the assignment and what was delivered by the students. In some cases, they looked at specific categories like the glass houses.
Yeah.
So how does this, what you're doing now, help them to make the maps better, to do the analysis of the glass houses more automatic instead of just looking at the map visually? Of course, through the years, we have the issue of map tiles versus, well, let's say only for the last couple of years, we have the features.
Yeah.
But what can be done with the data right now?
Well, there's quite a few things to be done, and one of the things that I'm most interested in is, for example, for the glass houses, um, you might want to see from what era they come, to see how the area developed in time. And that might be interesting here, because if you look at the older data, let's have a look. Well,
So
that's not going there. But you see that there, it we think of this area as there have been greenhouses forever there, but it only started in the 1970s, I guess. So that is not even that long ago. Um, it's a two generations that know that there's a lot of greenhouses there, but before that, well, so
okay, but what you're saying is actually you can use the current data set,
yeah,
the feature set, and together with the function, the function and
yeah,
the year it was built.
yeah,
What's still there is in it, and then you can make your historical map as well. It's not
yeah,
complete because things which have been destroyed, or whereas new construction, okay, they're added, but what is destroyed is not there anymore in the data set. But
correct.
yeah.
So if you have a look at that, and what I find interesting is that you can combine data sets a lot, and
Exactly.
you shouldn't be afraid to combine data to find new results. And to give an example of that, a totally different example, by the way, sorry about that, but in here in this, I worked for the province of Gelderland for some time, and you see that the river, the IJssel, that it follows a very distinct path here, and it has changed course in time quite a few times. Here you see it's canalized here, but it's used to go there, and this whole area is, of course, through the time was the area that the IJssel flowed, and depending on circumstances, that's what rivers did. Um, if I look at the height map here, let's take the. Oh, I'm always DSM DTM. One is with buildings, one is without, and I can't remember one. The 5 meters and 0.5 is the half meter resolution. So I first go to the 5 meter resolution. I think it's DTM that I want. This is the height map of the Netherlands.
It's the digital terrain modeling, DTM.
Yeah.
Terrain is terrain.
Yeah, does a house belong in the terrain?
No.
Okay, and the DSM is a digital surface model. Does the house belong in the surface?
Okay, I mix them up every time as well, if you say it this way.
Yeah, just look at the metadata that says, and here you see something interesting, because you don't see the river, but you see that the river used to be here. And you can see it by the height of the terrain, the height model, that here is another.
Oh yeah, there.
You see something
to the
here.
left.
You see so many details here.
Beautiful.
It's this lovely data set. And you can just, the first time I looked at it, was like, okay, this is insane. And I trashed into the office of the my manager, like, have a look at this. And it's like, okay, but why? And it's like, this is so interesting. You see the whole terrain here, everything that happened in the last, let's say, 10,000 years or so. And this area, this is a terrible area to do anything, because it has had so many different changes in the system. Water or dry, water or dry, water dry. Yeah.
Okay.
And
this is nice. Yeah, this is a nice combination, and we have seen a couple of examples that near Vianen and Vreeswijk.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we saw that this is a very useful thing to add. So some of you did that. So you layered it and had a look at the past. So this is a very good way to combine the current situation with the past. Okay, now you can see the buildings in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you see the buildings are excluded here.
Excluded.
So
Great.
the DTM is the model of the surface,
Terrain.
the terrain, and not the build-up area. And you see, of course, the highway and everything. This might also give you a good idea of is this area a good place to build on, or do you need some extras added to it? And there's one thing that if you have you don't see anything of the terrain anymore. You see here that, for example, these fields are lower laying area and there's some higher, and it's just a bit. You could also combine these two data sets. If I look at them this way, you don't see the height model anymore. But there's always the option in a GIS to use a different blending mode. And that is an interesting option that I really want to draw your attention to. On all kinds of levels and all kinds of areas, you can use the blending modes. And the normal means full color, just hide everything that's underneath it. And there are some other options, and multiply I used a lot. That means use these colors and combine them with the colors that are underneath it, and then you get a both color combined visual here.
Yeah. Okay, and it's important to use the digital terrain model here, because there you have only the terrain, and the surface model is including the canopy trees and the buildings.
Yeah, which is lovely as well, especially if you have
lovely,
it on if you have it on the half-meter resolution. You see all the trees, and you see the. For example, if you're looking at heat stress, that might be really interesting to see where all the green areas are, where the trees are.
Yeah,